Hiya guys, Crazy Teacher Nick here again, coming back to you with something that I think a lot of students struggle with. It's those devices that you have to create in paper 2. So I'm going to try and go through this video quite quickly, so you're going to have to pause where you need to. Okay, so I'm going to give you some structural devices, some language devices with some examples, and a couple of hints and tips on how they are effective and why you should be using them in your writing. Okay, there's a lot more structural devices and language devices out there. These are just the really easy ones that are very easy to kind of put into your text. Let's go. Okay, so firstly, you need to understand what paper 2 is asking of you. Again, read the question, take your time, okay? Paper 2 is asking you to write, and they will tell you what type of audience, what type of text, okay? To get those higher marks, you need to have a control of your structure, you need to have a variety of language devices, and you need to show an awareness of audience and register. Too many students forget about the importance of the audience. They write for themselves and they're not thinking about their audience. Or they write for a teacher or for an examiner and they're not thinking about the audience. Audience, audience, audience. I cannot say it enough. So, creating any structural and language devices means building those techniques consciously. So you're putting them into your writing and you're hoping to have that effect on the audience. Okay? They're not just going to happen by themselves. Okay? So you want to think about how you're going to affect your reader, the audience that the exam question has given you. And stay till the end. I've got some exam strategies on how to do this effectively. But let's take a look at some of those structural devices. Okay, very simple and very easy. Cyclical structure. You can use this in descriptors and narratives, but you can use cyclical structure in pretty much any text. Okay, so it's where you kind of have a kind of a basic image and you kind of return to that idea or that phrase at the end, and they give us a nice example. You open with "the city never sleeps," and you close with that very clever "as I walk home I realize the city still hasn't slept." So you can see how the writer has taken the story and kind of ended it in that very clever way. Okay, very sophisticated. Now, in a very similar way, we've got circular argument, and I'm hoping to have time to make a video just on this device because this device is very effective. It's one of those more sophisticated devices that you can use in your writing, especially in discursive argumentative writing, your articles. Okay, so it's where you kind of start with like some sort of a provocative idea, you explore both sides, and then kind of return to your stance. And it does add that sophistication to your work. But as I say, I'm planning a video just on circular argument. So hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know more about that. If there are any of these devices that you want more information on, again, drop the comments into the chat box down below and I'll make a video on that. Okay, shift in focus, very powerful, very easy. So shifting from big to small, outside to inside, public to private. So there's an example here. So you start by describing a busy market and then you zoom in on that one exhausted vendor. So you've got the shift in focus from the market to that one exhausted vendor. And it just helps give that text a bit of rhythm or contrast or depth to the description. So definitely a great device to use in pretty much any and every text. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Speeches, great places. Persuasive, it's a persuasive device, as you all know. Okay. And the repetition in that, it's there to create that emphasis, that memorability, and it's really easy. I mean, here you could turn it into a sentence structure all on its own. So that could be a paragraph all on its own. Remember that you want to kind of blend these devices together. Juxtaposition or contrast, again, if you can get away with it, it's great. It's a very easy one to create. Just be conscious of how you're creating those two extremes to sharpen your point. They must remain contextual, but it definitely creates that emotional impact. Again, emotive language, another device, so it works quite well. Varied paragraphing. This is one that I worry about. Using short paragraphs or longer paragraphs. Short paragraphs, perhaps for drama. Longer paragraphs for reflection or analysis. But students rely too heavily on these devices in analysis. In your writing, please go ahead. But don't rely on these devices as much as students do in the exams. I mean, I'm not saying don't discuss them. I'm just saying there is more within the text for you to comment on. Leave this for something like right at the end. Framing, another really exciting device that you can use. So you kind of have like an image, or you have something that basically kind of arcs over the text. So in a way, it's kind of like cyclical cycle, but it's kind of like, the ideas are interspersed throughout the text. This could be a good one to do a single video on. So if you want it, drop it in the chat box, and I'll make a video on framing. Okay, but a really simple device to use. It's kind of like a motif that runs through your text. Okay, so let's have a look at some of those language devices. Metaphor, for, and simile. And heavens to Betsy's, folks, please, 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 please be inventive with your devices. I mean, cold as ice, okay? They're boring, okay? So think about unexpected comparisons. Link similar ideas together. But remember what you're trying to do with these devices, okay? You're trying to create images. It's a figurative, it's a picture. You're trying to help your reader understand, and comparing this to this so you, the reader, understand what I'm trying to describe. Powerful. Just again, be careful. Okay? So think unexpected. Be inventive. Personification. Great device. Okay, you can practice these devices before you go into writing, travel writing, articles, narratives, descriptives. You can use personification in so many different places. Remember, it's about your audience. Okay, but obviously don't overdo it. And that goes for, I think, any of these devices. Triplets, rule of three. Again, very similar to repetition. We came, we saw, we conquered. It's dangerous, dirty, and destructive. So there you're kind of creating a listing of ideas or listing of effects, creating a bit of rhythm in your text. Okay. Remember, in say paper 2, question 2, when you're having to do that extended writing, you don't have to tell the examiner why. You just want to make sure that the examiner can see you using devices and that you're trying to have these impacts on your audience. So repeated openings, again, very similar to repetition. Okay, again, could be a paragraph. Brilliant for speeches, brilliant for opinion writing. Okay, in a review. Okay, perhaps. Descriptive writing, most definitely. Sentence variety, and if I had as one of my favorite YouTubers says, if I had a quid or a pound for every time I've had to say to students, use sentence variety in your writing, okay? Because I think, you know, in the lower classes, somewhere they teach you every sentence must be 5 words and no more than 5 words, and that's a lie. Or every paragraph must have 5 sentences or 5 lines. That is a lie. Okay? Sentence variety is so easy, such an effective device. Okay? It shows your sophistication, it shows your control of your language. Okay? And it creates that pace and that rhythm in your writing. So a nice short sentence can create tension and shock and change the pace, where a longer sentence is more reflective again, like a longer paragraph, okay, creates rhythm, creates flow. But there's got to be a balance, okay? There's got to be some sort of a balance. So please vary your sentences, but think carefully about why. Motive language. Again, this one can be a little bit more difficult for students, okay? They've got a nice example there. When the door closed, the silence felt heavier than the words we hadn't said. And this is kind of a precise, restrained emotion. It's subtle, but it's more powerful because it's kind of showing, not telling. Okay. And in persuasive language, in your narratives, you know, perhaps even in articles, depending on what the topic is, that emotive language is going to help tear at the heartstrings of your reader. And that's what you're trying to do. Oh gosh, imagery. My students know I hate imagery. Not hate it, it's great. Any text requires imagery. But imagery itself is not a device. Okay? Imagery is like the umbrella. So it's all of those appeal to the sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Okay, and you can layer these sensory details to kind of create that realism. And again, many of the different text types, this can be used. But don't quote imagery as a device. Be more specific about the device. The writer can create imagery. I know I'm talking about creating devices and analysis, but they go hand in hand. They really do go hand in hand. Okay, rhetorical questions, persuasive. You should know these. These are very effective, great for subheadings. Okay, to really engage your audience. Don't use it as a filler. Okay, it's meant to help or get the reader to think. And so you want that power in your rhetorical question. Okay, alliteration, assonance, okay, sound-based, so wonderful for a reader to kind of get that, like, you know, that's that rhythm, and that there's almost there's a magic that comes out of using alliteration or assonance. Okay. Shifts in tone, hopeful to bitter, calm to anger, shifts in tone. And if you mix it up, if you structure it with another device, okay, that'll definitely show your emotional intelligence, and that will appeal to an examiner. So a very good device to put into your text. So I picked this up last minute as I was kind of finishing off my work. I got this kind of like exam strategy hints, and I thought I'm just going to throw it in here because it's really, really helpful. Planning. Teacher Adna talks about planning. 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the most, but make sure you've got some sort of a plan of how your text is going to move. Consciously plant devices. Okay, so kind of know, like, from the beginning, I'm going to do this in the first paragraph, you know, devices that I'll use in my different paragraphs, in my different sentences. Remember, you start with a grade of 0. Every time you're adding devices, punctuation, okay, sentence structures, paragraph structures, language devices, structural devices. Did I say punctuation? Punctuation, varied punctuation. It's all adding to it. So don't be afraid. You cannot have too many devices, or I've yet to see a piece of text that has too many devices. Okay. Link your structural devices and language devices together, and when you've written a piece of text before you submit it, so if you're doing practice papers or assignments, and you've got a longer piece of, read it out aloud, read it to yourself on your mobile phone and record your voice. And then you will hear what it sounds like, because remember, the examiner or your reader, when we read, generally we have a voice inside our head. So we're reading it at your pace, the way that you're setting out your punctuation. That is the pace that we're reading your text. Okay? So it allows in our heads to pick up in the voice in our heads. And if it's me, lots of voices, then you can pick up, okay, where the text kind of feels slightly off. Okay. Annotate model answers. You can get model answers. They are all over. You can check them out on Google. There are some model answers on the Cambridge website. You can check them out there. Okay, go through them. Practice, read the mark schemes. Practice marking your own work as well. Okay, and challenge your teachers on your marking. Don't be afraid to challenge your teachers on your marking. Students don't do that enough. Okay, guys, you've been absolutely awesome. Hey, you guys can see my new addition. It's actually, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now. And it's created by Sierra Creations. And it's these beautiful skulls, and I adore skulls, especially when they've been beautifully decorated, like this one. Actually, I'll drop a link to their Facebook page, and you can go and check them out. Okay, you guys have been absolutely awesome. Rock on.